Hey guys, Krimazar here after spending my last 2 weekends testing in the sandbox. Before we get started, make sure you watch my previous video as tier 1 units are the bread and butter for most tier 2 and higher units. Since this is my last video for sandboxing egg openers, if you guys discover any builds that I missed or are better than mine, please let me know so I can update the spreadsheet. Alright, now let me show you some builds I tested that will increase your egg survival rate by tenfolds. The great thing about Angler is that you can hold a DT on 2 and immediately start collecting stacks. The downside is that Anglers can never hold Brute on 3 and need assistance from another unit to hold DT on 3 as well. The rest of the builds that I have provided are to defend against a Snail Send on 3. Ranged T1 units include Polywog, Proton, and Masked Spirit. Melee T1 units include all other tier 1 units. For some special cases, I will create a separate infographic like this looter example on the very right. I positioned the Harpy in this spot so that there is still room to place an RR unit next to it. The box shows where you can put your RR unit. Like Anglers and all the other tier 2 units that are 40 gold and under, Harpy can hold a DT send on 2, but overall Harpies are pretty bad for holding sends on wave 3 no matter what you pair with it. Ah yes, Gargoyles. They have the potential to hold Brood on 3. The downside is rather huge though, they require very specific positioning that will leak to a Dragon Turtle. So in short, if you're playing Gargoyles, you have to predict whether they will send a Brute on 3 or a Dragon Turtle on 3. You usually only have 41 gold to spend on the building phase of wave 2. The rest of the T2 units are too expensive to afford. Nekomata is great because it does not need a tier 1 unit to help hold a DT on 3. I added the Angler build in case you built an Angler on 2 and want to hold a DT on 3 still. Don't forget to pay attention to the number of stacks that I indicate on the infographic or else you will leak. Here are the rest of the tier 2 units that can hold a DT on 3. I didn't include bazookas because they require 3 to hold a DT on 3. And that's pretty expensive compared to all the other options that you have available to you from this guide. I know Fire Archer is not a tier 2, but I included it here because I don't want to make an infographic for just one build. This build didn't make it into the previous video because Bonewares are just so bad at protecting egg in general. Since Serpents attack from the back, it is unable to hold a DT on 3, because by the time it starts hitting the Dragon Turtle, the egg dies. As a result, you will need to use tier 1s to support it. Tempests, like Serpents, will require assistance from tier 1 units to hold a DT on 3. I positioned the Tempest in a way to allow you to place flying units around it still. Honestly, I'm not too sure if Windhawk is even worth pairing with Egg, as it can't solo hold a DT, and it has the exact same typing as Hydras. So, the problem with this is that you will be extra weak on waves that you will already be weak on with Hydra. But since I tested it, I included the infographic, but just know that I don't really recommend using Windhawks with eggs. I saved the best few for last, and boy are they useful. Not only can Infiltrator solo hold DT on 3, they can also hold a Brute on 3 with AoE ranged units. Don't forget to fully arm your Infiltrator if you're expecting that Brute though. Surprisingly, Wileshroom is one of the best tier 3 units to pair with Egg. Like Infiltrator, they can solo hold on 3 and have a couple builds that can hold a Brute on 3. I also included the Angler build for those trying to harvest stacks. During testing, I noticed that the Brute loves to make weird movements before reaching the egg. This may cause the Brute to be out of the Wileshroom's attack range. If this happens, your egg will break. However, during my testing it never happened, but when I was testing other melee units, this happened quite often and ruined a lot of great build ideas that I had. My point is just be aware that it's possible, and if it does happen to you, please let me know. Gateguard is pretty straightforward, it can hold DT on 3. Desert Pilgrim is pretty amazing if you can afford it, as it can hold a Brute Send on 3. It holds a Brute on 3 so well that I wouldn't be surprised if it could even hold an 80 send. Just note that you need to play a mastermind option that starts with more than +3 income, like Greed, to afford the Pilgrim on 3. Alternatively, just ask your opponent to send you a snail. Elite Archer is also wonderful for protecting Egg on 3, but honestly it is extremely rare for you to be able to afford one on wave 3, as you need a starting income of at least +6 and a snail on 1. But I included it anyways because if you can get it, it's extremely powerful. Some of the builds I covered today may seem pretty useless, but I will go more into depth about why some of these builds can be very powerful in my next video. So look out for that. Bye.